Welcome to Belly Up to the Blackboard, a podcast focused on the reality of teaching and other musings from and about professionals, hosted by Chris Munn and Justin Russell.
All right, welcome back to Belly Up to the Blackboard. Justin's still on his little, I don't even call it vacation, not vacation, trip to find yourself, Vision Quest.
Sure,
we can call it Vision Quest.
Yeah. I call it my recovery back to teaching.
I like that. Yeah, because you have, so as you're doing this, and we'll talk about where you're at later, like we did last episode, about where you're at, but you're doing a blog, right? I know maybe you're not up to date with it, but you started a blog to follow so people can follow it, right? Go ahead, talk about that real fast.
Yes. Yeah, I started a blog. It's called A Recovering Teacher. The format is kind of like those steps out of an addiction. Those of you who are in education, I think you would agree that all of the great teachers that you remember since, and this is a segment I'm sure later today, but International or World Teacher Day, I think we can all remember those great teachers or those teachers who we finally remember, and they were obsessed with their craft. And so I think when you think about an obsession or an addiction, teaching definitely would probably be in that category. And so I just kind of want to play on words and not to discredit those who have an addiction, but I truly think that this is my journey back to the classroom, and hopefully that's where it leads. And if not, then at least it's a recovery from teaching, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, moving back into society as a fully functional human being, I suppose.
Well, good luck with that. So, yeah, you did. You brought up it is World Teacher Day, and we'll touch on that and talk about who influenced us. But first thing, and I found a new button here on our Rodecaster Pro that I like. So we're gonna get into our first segment. There we go, popping the champagne. So here we go. What are you drinking?
Well, right now I have Blue Moon, that light sky, that citrus wheat. It's my go-to right now, man. Like those days I don't want to drink any kind of hard liquor. I like drinking this.
So the Blue Moon light sky, those are those skinny cans, right? And you got the citrus one or tropical?
Yeah, I got the citrus wheat, man.
Oh, okay, yeah. That one's pretty good. I think there's a tropical version too that I've had. That's like you said, you don't want a heavy beer. You just want something light, but you're really not looking to drink a lot of alcohol or liquor. You just want something to sip on. Those are really good. I gotta give you 2 thumbs up on that one.
Well, thanks. What do you got?
All right, so it's a little sweet, but I'm doing the Crown Peach. So it's the Crown Peach we got when we were in Kansas City. Couldn't find it in Iowa at the time, so I stocked up and on a little road trip we had. I don't know if I should say that or not, but we did. So I'm mixing that with a little bit of Sprite. I need to throw it in the freezer, so it's one of those things you can just take a nice little shot of nice little cold Crown. But yeah, Crown Peach and a little bit of Sprite is what I'm drinking right now. Had a little bit of pineapple citrus earlier, and then my wife was wanting one of those dailies, those frozen deals. So I had a little bit of that earlier too. Threw that in with a little bit of not seltzer, like flavored water, like carbonated water. No alcohol in the water, but yeah, I was a little. I said, you didn't mix that with a seltzer, a hard seltzer.
I like how you threw that in there, like no alcohol. Like you just want to make sure people understand you don't drink all day, right? Like, that's
I do not. No, I would be. I'd be a terrible teacher if I drank all day. Just come home and have one. Maybe
a lot of teachers in the 50s and 60s, I think a lot of them drank during the day.
Bottom right drawer, right? They had their bottle that while it was nap time. No, this is the one day a week that we didn't have anything going on with sports and dance and stuff like that for the kids. So we've been kind of at home, so just been hanging out. It's been nice to have it's pretty crazy right now with the seasons with what the kids are doing. Yeah. So, yeah, but
that's good, right? That's what you want.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what? That is one of the nice things, and we talked about it before, so I won't rehash it. But not coaching, even kids could do so much more stuff. You know, that we're more time available for parents to be able to get them places and enjoy those things. So yeah, right. So we're talking about the what are you drinking, but let's talk about what are the different. And I'm putting you on the spot because we didn't talk about this. So have you hit some pretty decent either distilleries or breweries on your travels?
Yeah, so it's funny you bring that up because Kim was just giving me crap yesterday. We were gonna head to a liquor store because there were some things I wanted to pick up that were local from Arizona that you can't find out of the state. And there was a apple beer that she really liked in Oregon, and it's only made in Oregon and only sold in Oregon.
And you didn't get a bunch?
It's almost like, oh man, yeah. I tell you what, like I don't know why, like it escaped my brain, like to stop at a gas station on the way back to the campsite.
Yeah.
And get a case, but we'll have to look for it. I'll look for another one. But yeah, I tell you what, in Montana, anybody who loves that old historic, like old Western feel, like small town batch stuff,
yep,
you gotta tour Montana and Wyoming. Like there is nothing like it.
So are they pretty small then? Are they pretty small distilleries or?
Yeah. So like the size of your classroom, man.
Yeah.
Like I kid you not. We walked into one and it had three of those wire spindle tables. Had three of those tables. There was two ladies behind the bar that was maybe 6 feet long. Okay. And the distillery maybe had one like pot.
Oh, so it's a small one then.
Yeah, but man, they crank that stuff out into some of the best stuff. Like the one we stopped at in Montana, cool story. But anyhow, they literally do it moonshine style. Like, so the guy is from Tennessee, moved to Montana after he was in the Army, started this little distillery, does it the old moonshine way because his family were moonshiners back in Tennessee. It was awesome. I mean, it was clear, but it wasn't like white lightning when you drink it. Like it didn't feel like you were drinking gasoline.
Yeah.
But it was about 15 miles from this entry point up into the mountain where there are huckleberry bushes as far as you can see. And for those of you who don't know about huckleberries, man, they go for like a 5-gallon bucket right now. They'll go for like anywhere between $120 to $200 a 5-gallon bucket of huckleberries.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. The thing is, though, is you go up to a place like that, you got to take a couple shotguns and bear spray.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's where they eat on those, don't they?
That's where they gorge. Yeah. And you can't see them, right? Because they just sit on their asses and eat these huckleberries all day long. And they're sitting in these bushes that are, 3, 4, 5 feet tall. And you go up there with your bucket like Jeb Clampett, and thinking you're going to collect, $200 in a matter of 20 minutes. Yeah, you better be ready. So it's a really cool town. I've met some of the coolest people, though, and not to get too deep or, methodical or political, but to say that this country is all individualistic and that there are some disparities in how people treat each other. Like Kim and I, we sat down and we've sat down in some of the biggest groups there could be, and people just start randomly talking to you, like they know you, right? And it's so cool. So, my misconceptions about Oregon and Washington, they don't necessarily go with how I think or believe or how I want to raise my kids, but they were some of the nicest people I had ever met. I mean, just my misconceptions of those two states.
Now was that in big towns, or was that big cities, or was that small towns?
Man.
See, I think that's where.
No, they were in small towns.
That might be the thing, though, because it could be when you're in a city that has a ton of people, you don't really want to meet or talk to anybody new. But if you're in a smaller town, you're more open to maybe having those conversations. You know, it's a little bit slower life, slower lifestyle, and you're not always on edge with the next person. And maybe that's it.
No.
I wonder what it'd be like if you went into Portland, you know, or Seattle. If it'd be the same.
And we were in Portland I was in Portland for a couple hours. I mean, I didn't and I was even walking on the street, cause, I had some testing I did, and Kim and the kids went and saw some family for a couple hours. But I think you're right. I do think it's kind of that area. And you're right. It might just be a stress level. Like, you're always on guard, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you are, because there's just so many people in a small area. And especially like those big cities is when, you know, obviously crime rate is higher. So you're, I don't know, always on guard, I guess. I don't know. But it'd be interesting to see. Okay. So
some really cool breweries and distilleries. Every distiller or brewery we went to, everyone was excited to tell you about their product. We went to one that was set up like an old sawmill. I think the lady that helped us, she had this. She helped you in through the door. She was the hostess. I think she had the 1880s garb on, and then I'm pretty sure she had a thing of chew in. It just took you back, right? And I told Kim, I go, people bitch and moan about how tough their life is now. Can you imagine living 10 miles from your closest neighbor, right? And everything you ate came from the ground that you worked, correct? It wasn't one of those deals where, and those people didn't bitch and moan about it either, right? They just knew, if I want to eat today, I got to go down and fish and fight off the bear that's getting the same fish, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a life. You're not going, maybe now it's a little bit different, but you're not going to the store for every single little thing that you need. You're pretty self-sufficient. And I think you have to, because I mean, especially in the winter up there, you may not get out for a while, you know, and I don't know, but this is just an assumption I'm making. So, but it happens. So you all right there?
Yeah. I'm good.
Okay. So it's, so like we said, today is World Teacher Day. Okay. So
World Teacher Day.
I don't believe there were any parades or anything. I only saw it because somebody shared it on Facebook. I didn't hear anything about it. So that got me thinking, and we were going to do this.
You did do a walk of champions today at school?
I should have, just myself. Walk of champions, walking through the hall. World Teacher Day. Respect me. Shower me with love.
Yeah.
But we were going to talk because in May was Teacher Appreciation Week. So we were going to do an episode on that. But I think this is a good episode to talk about who are our favorite teachers. And they may not be teachers that influenced us into getting into education, but just like you still remember them, you may still talk to them. Just a few teachers that we each had that, and obviously we've talked about this before. So if you've listened, we went to the same high school, we were in the same class, same grade. So we might have some overlapping of teachers, and that's okay because people have the same favorite teacher for different reasons. So let's just talk about a few teachers that we, I don't want to say want to recognize because who knows if they listen to us. But just so others know.
Let me ask you this. So let me ask you this, Chris. So if we go the Jordan Peterson route here and use the archetype type of function, what archetype of teacher do you think you loved when you were in school? And did it change from when you were a little kid, like in elementary to high school? So that's kind of two questions. And I guess the third question for you then would be, which archetype do you feel like you are now? Who did you turn into as a teacher? Do you feel like you were kind of on which spectrum, I guess, is the other real question.
Okay, so let's talk about the teachers first. So we can kind of build into that. So for me, okay, the teachers that, they were different though. Honestly, from elementary school and middle school, I don't really have a favorite teacher. I wasn't the best behaved student at that time. So,
Well, let's rephrase this. You would be in a BD program. Let's just put it that way.
I would not be in a BD program, but I got in trouble. We'll leave it there. So honestly, when I think of my favorite teachers, they're all high school teachers. I think a big thing is that they pushed me, they held me accountable. And that was a big thing. And that was part of the reason is that respect. So should I name them? Should I just talk about them?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you could. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a confidentiality thing. And
No.
obviously, yeah.
They're all alive still. So, no, I don't, and it's not, and I like them. So it's not like I'm going to be degrading these teachers. So one of my first teachers that I was introduced to, I guess, the class, in high school was Miss Fish. We had her for, English 9th grade English, super immature still. So that happens. So
you were immature. She was.
Yes. I was completely immature. So we had her for 9th grade English. I think it was it was 9th grade English because then she did 10th grade as well. Sorry, I had to take a drink of my Crown Peach and Sprite.
Yeah, you're good.
So she held you accountable. You had fun in her class, but you knew the boundaries and you respected them.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean you didn't push them. So that was my first introduction, was 9th grade English. And then we took a class, and you were in this class too. It was actually called class. I don't remember what it
was an acronym for something.
It was, and I can't remember what it was, but so it was a 2-period class, and it had world history and English 10th grade English. So Miss Fish also taught that class with our football coach, Mr. Pizzetti. And the big thing I remember from that year in that class was I was making fun of a buddy of ours. And
he was doing a speech.
No. This was at the end of the period. We're all kind of like
a different time. Oh.
Yeah, it was a different time. We all kind of lined up at the door, or we're just crowded right there. And I don't know what I said. I don't remember. I honestly don't. But
I remember.
Joking, you probably don't remember. So I was joking around, and I must have said something. and she looks at me, and she's like, you can be a big jerk sometimes. And that made me feel 2 inches tall. I just, after that, I mean, I'm sure I still messed around, but not like that. She put me in my place, and it was. Go ahead.
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree? The thing about that for you and me, and just I feel like our generation was, we understood. There was this idea of no bullshit, right? Teachers could tell you. Yeah, teachers could tell you in a way. Now, she didn't degrade you. She didn't say, "Come up here, Mr. Munn, and pull your pants down in front of the entire class and berate you." But just that simple, straightforward, simple comment. You can be a jerk. And you knew what that meant.
Yeah, and it wasn't like she didn't pull me aside and say, "Hey, you're not being appropriate. You're being mean. Blah blah blah. You're bullying." She called me out in front of the class as we're there. She's like, you can be a big jerk sometimes, or a real jerk sometimes. Yeah. And you know what? And I don't know what shifted, but at that time, I was embarrassed of how I acted there. Now it seems like if you would call out a kid in front of their peers, they would take that as a challenge to be worse in front of their peers instead of
or they'd get embarrassed, and then it would be traumatizing for them.
Yeah,
right?
you get an email from a parent.
You said they were. No.
Yeah, so and if I went and told my mom, if I went home and said, "Hey, Miss Fish called me a jerk because I was making fun of somebody," she's probably, what she'd probably say is well, that's nicer than I was. My mom would have probably called me an asshole. Quit acting like one.
A jerk. Don't be an asshole in class. Yeah.
So And you know what's funny is, so after high school and stuff, get married and all that jazz, right? So the church we go to,
Yeah.
she's a member. So we don't see her very often. We need to get back to church. Different story. We haven't been for a while. Obviously, things changed through COVID and stuff, so it was hard to get back and you get out of the rhythm of it. But yeah, so her and her husband go to church, and so we see him as much as we, on Sundays, and it's just great because there's still that relationship,
Yeah.
And I remember still, I don't know where we were at. You were probably with me, but it was when I got my teaching job. Either when I got my teaching job or I was getting ready to. I was in college, getting ready to become a teacher, and we were just talking. And like I said, I don't remember where, but then I told her I was becoming a teacher, and I got a slap on the shoulder, like, "Are you kidding me? You're going to be a teacher?" After what you put me through? I'm like, so it was kind of funny.
Isn't that the irony? Isn't that the irony though of teachers? Is I think great teachers, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. Great teachers though, they recognize not only those students who probably have a gift to be a teacher, but would you agree that it almost is a bittersweet pill for them to swallow, because and I'm speaking from my own experience, when I see a student who I think would be a great teacher because their life experiences and the way they relate to people comes easy, it's a bittersweet pill for me to swallow, because I want something better for them than to fall into, I guess, those negative aspects of teaching that I've fallen into, which is the obsessive compulsiveness, the hours that I've driven myself to partake in to get things done, right? Like, and the relationships that have had to be put on the back burner because of that. Would you agree that it's a bittersweet pill for a lot of great teachers when they see that?
Yeah, I could see that aspect of it 100%. Because I think when you're in it, and especially the last year or two, if you see a kid that wants to be a teacher, like, you could do something better with your life than be a teacher. And I think it's because
Right.
when you're doing it, you see you see all the negative aspects. It's just like with kids walking the halls. The great kids. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. There was a little sound. I thought I lost you. So, like, you see all the negative things. It's easier to pick out the negative things in life than it is the positives, right? Like,
Yeah.
the kid that you get like a wedding invitation to, you haven't talked to for like 5 years, but you taught them, and then all of a sudden you get a wedding invite because you made a difference. Or, World Teacher Day, and they post something on Facebook about, hey, what a great teacher, whoever it was. Those are the kids that maybe you made a difference, you touched, made a positive impact. But you don't usually realize that right away, like while you're doing it. No kid's gonna be like, man, you're such a great teacher today. You're awesome. I love you. This is why I'm going to become a teacher. It's after the fact, when it's that day, it's going to be, you usually see a lot of the negative. So I see that. Yeah. The bittersweet. They're like, what are you doing? Being a teacher? Come on. And maybe it's just like the way I acted in school. She thought that wasn't a good idea. I don't know. But
well, but at the time, did you catch the sense that Miss Fish expected better from you or more from you? Or was it a reflection that you had, like the reflective practice afterwards, now that you're a little bit older, you realize that's what that message was, right?
No, I don't think it was that she expected better or anything. Because I mean, when we think about our teachers that we had, I hold them in such high, almost all of them that we've had that still have relationships with, such high regard, that I think teaching is such a virtuous career path. So I don't want to say she expected better from me. I think she just couldn't believe that I was going to become a teacher, because I didn't. Maybe in high school I didn't seem like.
No. I meant when she called you a jerk.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You now get the sense that she knew you were a better person than that.
Oh yeah, she expected way better than me. I mean, or way more from me. Excuse me. So, because that was during that class, and if you remember, you actually had to apply to take it. There were some kids that didn't get into
what
it.
just dawned on me?
What's that?
You know what just dawned on me, Chris? That class probably wasn't what we would consider a project-based course.
Oh, project-based learning? 100%. I remember one of the things one of the
that's
projects,
all we did, right?
Yeah. I remember one of the things we did was we wrote a newspaper about the Roman time, like if you were living in Rome at that time.
Mount Vesuvius, we had to write it around that time it exploded. Remember?
And gladiator battles. I remember that. I probably still have that paper somewhere at home, at my mom's house.
I don't know. God, that was so long. Do you remember how old those computers were?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, she was one of my favorite teachers because then I kept taking her classes. They did service learning.
Yep.
And by the time I was a senior,
service learning, I forgot about that.
That was fun because you'd go over to the elementary or middle school. I loved that, and then you helped the younger kids.
Oh, that was great.
Went to Soup Kitchen, I think. I know Bethel Mission was one of the places we went.
Yep.
But no, even when I was a senior and I could have taken a tiny class load because I had enough credits, I still took almost a full class load because of, I wanted to take her class. I wanted to take service learning. I wanted to take newspaper, which was Mr. Elkin, who was another one of my teachers that made an impact. Another one holding me accountable, and maybe that's a theme. I don't know. And then taking DECA with Miss Bonet.
Yeah.
You talk about a small world. She just lives catty corner away from my in-laws, so I get to see her quite a bit. But I think you get to those teachers, and for me, it was I didn't care what the subject was. I wanted to be in their class. I wanted to be around those people.
And I can't believe I forget what her name was, but the Spanish teacher,
Miss Anzavino.
Yeah, Anzavino. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Took 4 years in Spanish and then ended up taking a year in college because we liked her class, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I remember Mr. Elkin, who's now he's assistant superintendent in a district, but he was one where we had a year-long class, paper due before Christmas, didn't turn it in. I turned it in right afterwards. And he's like, hey, deadline was Christmas, or deadline was for end of the first semester. He wouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
I think I skated by it, that class with a D because of that paper. But he ended up using that as an example. Hey, this kid I am holding him accountable, so why wouldn't, I'm going to hold everybody else to the same standard. Nobody's above the law.
That's the thing, that's what I was just going to say. It was a standard. It didn't matter what, quote unquote, event happened. You know what I mean? There was nothing that you could have, there was probably something you could have said at some event, but
oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
That was the exception. That was the standard.
Not the expectation, you mean? Yeah.
The expectation, yeah.
Yep. And he even told me after that, because I still talk to him to this day. He's like, I still use that as an example. If I let one of my favorite students, which I don't know if he said that, but if I held him accountable,
You're putting words in his mouth. Yeah, Elkin, if you're listening to this, please respond to that statement.
Because kids would ask for an extension. He's like, why would I let you? I didn't let this kid, who was one of my favorite students. Yeah. I'm going to say that. I'm not going to give him an extension. Why would I give you one? So those are three, and I don't want to say they impacted me in becoming a teacher.
Okay.
But they definitely impacted me. They were an impact in my life of just how to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, and I try to hold kids accountable, and out of a respect thing, you can do better than this. Yeah. And maybe that I do take that from them of, you have high expectations. If you have a low bar, everyone's going to get over it. Right? You need to try.
Wouldn't you agree that goes with, though, you wouldn't let your own kids slide on certain things. So as a teacher, though, why would it be okay to let other people's kids. You know what I mean? Like, if you're responsible and you're supposed to treat every kid like your own kid, like, and love them as much as your own kid, then I think there has to be an understanding from the populace that it has to be okay that I'm going to expect the same thing out of your kid as I do my own kids, right?
Yeah. And I think I do think about that.
If I want the garbage taken out now or in the next 5 minutes, then I'm not going to let your kid slide on this paper deadline, right? Like, that's how this works, correct?
Well, and that is how, like, I've thought about that too, coaching, like, because you get the parents like, you wouldn't put your kid through this. I'm like, I'm treating your kid and I haven't had a parent ask me that, but that's just me going through that situation in my mind. I am holding your kid accountable just as much as I was hold my kid accountable. My kids probably, I'm holding them more accountable, but yeah, you have that standard.
Yeah.
I'm going to treat you like you're my kid. This is what I expect.
Yep.
And I told the kid that the other day. I said, if I wasn't getting on you about getting your stuff done, it means I've given up on you. Right?
Absolutely.
I'm getting on you because I expect more, because I know what you can do. Right? Okay, so we're going to flip it. So I'm going to talk. So you tell us, teachers who, World Teacher Day, who are the teachers that either impacted you into becoming a teacher, just made an impact on you in your life?
Or to me?
Yeah, you. Who are the teachers that you had that made an impact?
Let me start out by this. Like, so I love the explanation you gave, man, about how the teachers that impacted your life didn't necessarily impact you to become a teacher, but impacted. And would you ultimately say help shape the human being that you are right now?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I still think of that.
And
you know, I like I said, I can still remember her calling me a jerk, and it was well deserved. You know, it's
Well, it's not. So yeah, now it's not Miss Fish calling you a jerk. It's your wife and kids, right?
No, they do not, because I took what Miss Fish said. And I applied that.
Yeah.
I applied that to my life. Correct. It made me a better person. 100%.
I asked you that because I was listening to it made me think about how, since I served on that the building leadership team for our school district, how every year in the Gallup poll, and we did that twice a year.
I think so.
Time,
maybe.
Yeah, how each time, or once a year, and then it moved to twice, whatever. How every testing we scored extremely low. The student population in high school always scored very low on the question that asked, do you have a mentor, or do you have somebody who you feel is a mentor to you? And I raised that question multiple times. Like, do students actually know what a mentor is? Like, have they ever had that explanation or understanding? Because growing up, did you ever have somebody explain to you this is what a mentor is?
No. I mean,
no.
Like you said, there were people that you modeled your life, or you looked up to and took cues from, but it wasn't. We never labeled it a mentor, and that's. So I think I know where you're getting here. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I just remember, like, when I was in school, we always had that question of who's your hero, right? Like, it was always like, write about your hero, or who do you look up to, or here are the positive characteristics that people, like society, wants you to have. Like, who in your life has it? Like, I remember there was a lot of character building type reflection when I was a kid, or in school. And so back to that question or Gallup poll about who's your mentor, like, I raised that question. Like, I don't think most people can explain what a mentor is, let alone say who that is in their life. And so when you had stated about people who impacted your life, like, it sounds like they were mentors to you. Like, you didn't know it at the time, but they were shaping you as a human being. And so when I think about teachers, I think about, like, even in the beginning days, like, I would claim that I was a BD kid. Like, I was not.
I'd claim that too. Like, I think you were.
Yes, my sister would too, Jamie, because every year, she was a year younger than me, obviously, and for those of you who don't know, and every year, teachers, she would say her name, right? Teachers would go, Jamie Russell. She'd go here, and they go, is your brother Justin Russell? And she go, yeah. And they go, okay, I'm going to keep my eye on you, or I already know about you. Like, she hated it. But anyhow,
yeah, I would say that, I'd say that you'd be one of those, you'd be a kid that's medicated nowadays, but knowing your parents, they would not medicate you. They may give you the belt.
Yep, they would have given me the. You and I have talked about this before, Chris, but there were literally times where I begged. Miss Durant was one of them, and that I begged she not call my parents. I remember I got to high school, and there were teachers like Miss Anzavino, Bechtel, like those teachers. I begged after they called my parents to give me detention, right? Like, keep me until 5:30, because the longer I can stay here, the less I'm going to hear about it or deal with it at home. And not that my parents were abusive. They were just disciplinary, right? Like, and you know that, Chris, like, and I think you and I, that really shaped who we are as people in knowing that there's boundaries, consequences. So when you talk about teachers in high school, I'll start there. That's fine. Miss Anzavino was one of them. And the reason I love Miss Anzavino's class is this. She understood that we were high schoolers. So that means she knew that we had lives outside of school. We had extracurriculars. We had personal relationships. We had family issues. But she gave us that outline, right? You remember that each quarter? Like, we had a list of here is what needs to be done.
Yeah, it was almost treated like almost like college.
Absolutely. Same thing with Mr. Elkin. You remember in those classes, like, yeah, there was like a traditional lecture time, but I remember the ability, and I'll admit I goofed around more than probably most. But I knew, I knew that there was a deadline. I knew, like, on September 25th that this 5-page essay had to be done, and to a quality. And I'm not going to get started about matrices and 4-point scales and all that now, but back when we were kids, there was no 4-point scale, right, Chris?
No. You had a rubric maybe, but it was not a 4-point scale.
Maybe a rubric.
Yeah.
But you knew that if the itinerary or the criterion was 12-point font and 5-page minimum and 9,000 words, like, there was no 26 font. There was no, like, triple space. Like, there was no fudging that. Like, it literally was what it was on that paper to get an A. Everything else was like a C or a D, right? Like, but anyhow, so like Pizzetti, I would say he probably, there was a year or so of my life that was pretty turbulent. He went way out of his way. When I think of mentors, he would be at the top of my list. Mr. Elkin or Coach Elkin would be at the Fish, Anzavino. I never had, I had Bechtel. And the reason I loved Bechtel was this. He was real. Like, he was not one of those teachers that came in suit and tie and said, like, I'm the teacher, I'm your boss, I'm God. Like, there is no whatever. Like, the great thing about what I loved about Mr. Bechtel was, if you did a test and you got a question wrong, he was always up for you to come in after class or after school and talk to him about it. If you felt like you got it right and he counted it wrong, he was always willing to talk about it, right?
Yeah, he'd let you plead your case or explain why you thought it was the correct answer.
Or, like, and to give you perspective, those of you who are listening, Bechtel would give multiple choice tests, but each multiple choice had multiple answers, right?
Yeah, and he was a chemistry, anatomy and phys teacher. Yeah.
And advanced chem, and my gosh, like, I remember multiple times having to go in and like take the book in with me after I read it for a couple hours, the chapters, because he used to go through a unit a week. We had pop quizzes on Wednesday. We had chapter tests on Fridays. And there was no sliding that. Like if you were gone on Friday, you had to arrange to take that test before Friday. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to be gone on Friday. Can I take it on Monday? No, it literally was, then you better come in on Thursday and take it. Like,
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no retake. It's not like nowadays where you can wait 18 weeks and take stuff, right? Like,
Or take it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. So I would say when it comes to teachers who shaped who I am or mentors, I would say one, the archetype was not male characteristics. It was people who expected the best out of you, regardless of who you were, the color of your skin, the socioeconomic status that you were, whatever. Like when you stepped in their class, they had a bar that was set. And if you wanted to meet that, they would do whatever it took to help you get there.
Yeah, and like you said,
you were some slap.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, like you said, if you were some slappy that came in and said, "Hey, my parents are rich," or "Hey, I'm a minority," or "Hey, I have an ACE score of 500, which means I don't need to do anything and I'm just going to pass." Like that didn't fly. Like even in middle school, that didn't fly. Like you were held to a standard. And I think that's where you start to see it nowadays, where there is a sliding standard. Like we were at a restaurant the other day. We waited 10 minutes. Not a single soul came and talked to us. There was maybe 10 people in this restaurant that housed about 250 people. And the standard for human-to-human interaction and the standard for service has slid so much that I think it starts with that idea that there is no standard, right? There's multiple chances.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've seen that too, and it's been frustrating. So like off topic, gone on a tangent here. So I started working when I was 14 because, my mom bought us some school clothes, but if I didn't want the Walmart jeans, she said, "Okay, get a job, buy your own clothes." So at 14, I started working at McDonald's. Yep. You had to wear the hat, yep. You had to wear the black slacks, black shoes, and the tucked in McDonald's shirt. And I mean, it's so, and not even just now, maybe 10 years ago, you'd go, and I went to McDonald's as a kid, untucked shirt, wearing jeans. I'm like, I know it's tough to get people. I understand that. It's always tough to find, especially in fast food. You're going to get teenagers. But how do we let that standard slide so much that it's basically like wear what you want and it's okay? You don't hold them. Now, like, and this is where Chick-fil-A, huge fan of Chick-fil-A, just for the fact, I mean, they're polite, they're well-mannered, well-dressed. There's a standard there, and we don't go to fast food.
Teachers.
What's that?
They also sponsor teachers. I mean, they are a big educational organization, right? Like,
yeah, and there may be other places too that, other fast food places that we don't eat fast food a lot. But I know when I go to Chick-fil-A, there's a standard there. I have an expectation of what it's going to be, what the service is going to be, what my experience is going to be. I also have that, not in a good way, when I go to McDonald's. Yeah. Yep. And that was one of the things that I griped about. It's been a while, like, when they were very first wanting $15 an hour. And I was talking with a coworker. We went and grabbed something. I think it might have been parent-teacher conferences night or whatever, and ran and grabbed McDonald's because it was the closest thing. So we get it and everything, and then I don't have a straw in my bag. And so I kind of went off on a tangent of, they want $15 an hour, and they can't put a damn straw in a bag. And It's just like the standards have slipped. Okay, There's my tangent. Go ahead.
Well, no, you know, so World Teacher Day, I maybe, and I don't know how much time we have here, Bud, but maybe I know we've talked about some of the teachers that have impacted our lives. So, but I do want to acknowledge not everybody had a great high school or school experience. Like I do want to acknowledge that. I mean, let's talk about just real quickly, like the 50s, like corporal punishment was accepted, correct? Like any teacher at any time, like I understand all that. I understand that during the 60s, 70s, a lot of things happened and a lot of physical and mental abuse has happened as well. I do want to acknowledge that, but I do also want to acknowledge that if it wasn't for teachers being, and I'm going to use the term, the first defense against mediocrity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd be far worse off, don't you think? Like, I think it's right. It's easy to focus on all the negative teachers out there, and you have a couple of great ones to talk about here.
Yeah, well, and I think we can put those off.
Yeah.
We'll put those off till next episode. We don't need to. We're at 46 minutes, so we can keep going on this.
Okay. But anyhow, yeah, we'll wrap up. But I do want to say, like, I do understand that like, there's some bad experiences, but for the most part, I do still think that teaching is a noble profession. Do I feel like that there has to be some major changes in education? Absolutely. But being World Education or World Educator Day, the next educator that you see, talk to, hear about whatever, please, those of you listening, do reach out and say something to those teachers who meant something to you, because it is a career that the investment that we give as educators, we may never fully realize, right? Or it may never fully come to fruition on what we have accomplished, because
the impact that we've made.
Like,
in our
yeah,
students.
I mean, I know teachers that 15, 20 years in still have yet to hear a positive of what they've done. And maybe they were a bad teacher. Maybe they're in the, but I do know that if you've taught for 20, 30 years and you've never heard one person say a positive thing about you, like, I think there's a disparity in there, correct? Like, there's no way that you've had thousands of students come to your classroom and you've not impacted at least one.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
So,
you would, like you said, 20, 30 years, I would hope that you would have heard something from some student. And like we said, it's an investment. You're not going to hear it a lot of times right away. Those days when it's, Teacher Appreciation Week, they send notes, so you might hear something there possibly. Graduation day is a big day for, when they thank teachers, obviously. Obviously, there's more opportunities as a coach to hear those things. But once that hits and once those kids are out the door, you may not hear it for a while. It may be 5-10 years, like we said, down the road. When that impression you made on a kid, they finally let you know how much of an impact you were. So it's...
So top piece of advice for new teachers, what would you give on World Education or World Teacher Day?
Teacher Day?
From the people that impacted your life, what would you say?
I would just keep doing your best, keep reaching out to those kids, and hold them to standards, because those kids will thank you later. Those are the kids that are going to thank you. That the kids that you let slide and make it easy on, they're kids that are probably going to try to have it easy the rest of their lives. So those kids you hold accountable, that you're going to make that, change. That impact will be there. You won't see it right away, obviously. They may be pissed at you because you're holding them accountable. But that's a good thing. Hold kids accountable and let them know why. Let them know that, hey, I have high expectations. I'm not doing this because I'm an asshole. I'm doing this because I know you can do better. So keep doing, hate me now, love me later, Yep. Good. So what about you?
I like it.
What do you got for new teachers?
So I'm gonna butcher this, but I'm gonna say something from Jordan Peterson again, which is raise was it raise kids to prepare them for the world they'll grow up in. And I'm sure I just butchered that. So Jordan Peterson or somebody who's linked to him, if you hear this, like
I hope he's listening.
deeply apologize.
That would be awesome if he was listening.
But I again, it goes back to what you were talking about with standards. And that is the world will hold you to a standard no matter where you are. And I'm not talking about judging you. I'm not talking about critique. I'm talking about society as a whole will hold you to a standard. And you hit on the head, man, which is I'm not doing this to be a jerk or an asshole. Like I'm showing you or telling you this is how the world works. If there are consequences, if you're a plumber and you're called to fix somebody's water heater, right, and you F that up, like you're not coming back to fix that. Like the customer is going to call your company that you work for, and they're going to send somebody else out. Like you don't get another chance. If I'm a driver for Budweiser and I deliver the wrong amount of cases to a store or short them, right? Like I don't get like 10 more chances to correct that. Like I get one more, right? So I think the idea is that pushing kids is, yes, important, but I do think that explaining, like you said, is another piece of that, correct? And so as an educator, I would say that is one thing that I'm starting to realize as I am on my road to recovery of being an educator is there needs to probably be more explanation on my part. Because, yeah, I do come off as a jerk. I do come off as gruff. But there is a reasoning to my madness. And like I said,
like you said, you're holding them to expectations you'd hold your kids to.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I've made my kid Hattie cry at least twice a day, probably because I told her no and stuff. But at the end of the day, I still explained to her, like, no, we can't have the sixth piece of candy because you don't need that. There's a lot of sugar there.
You don't want cavities.
So. Right? Yeah. So, well, cool. Well, right. I know we got off topic there, and I kind of rambled a little bit, but no, I think on World Teacher Day, I think it's a good thing to celebrate. I do.
Yeah, I agree. And then, hey, next episode, let's hit that next topic of maybe not so great teachers. We'll do that next time.
Let's do that time. And then what are the 2 articles we want to hit next time? So our listeners are.
Yeah. So just a sneak preview. There's one teacher in Louisiana that was paying kids $5 to bully a kid, and we'll get more into that. Substitute teacher. Another teacher that was fired, I think it was in Texas, who was defending pedophiles, which is a weird stance to take as a teacher. And then we may hit, I know it's a little bit older news, but that district in California that was asking parents to house teachers, maybe I think it was rent them a room, and just talk about that. And I think maybe some things like that. And if something else comes up, we might change it.
Yeah, maybe we don't title it bad teachers. Maybe we just make it a questionable judgment. Right?
What the hell were you thinking? What were you thinking?
Yeah, we'll make it that segment. What the hell you're thinking?
Yeah. So I think that's a good topic for next time.
Yeah, I think so. Cool. Well, thanks, man. This was great. Sorry, everybody who's listening that it's been so long since we had the last episode. But,
yeah. Hey, I'm going to cut you off right here. Sorry, cutting you off. Yeah. Where are you at? We got to do this. Where are you at right now?
Yeah, quickly.
We got time. We don't have a time limit.
Yeah, we got time.
Go ahead.
Oh, we're in Durango, Colorado. We just came from Cameron, Arizona, which has the last and oldest trading post in the U.S. So it's on an Indian reservation or Native American reservation in Arizona. It literally had 6 buildings in the town. But anyhow, Durango, Colorado. Tomorrow we're actually going to take a 4-hour train ride along the Colorado River. And yeah, we're going to kind of just spend some time out here. It's a really cool town if you ever have a chance to come to Durango. But back in the mountains, man.
Nice. Well, hey, stay safe, okay? We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll talk to you
soon.
All right, buddy. See ya.
Yep, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you with questions or topic ideas. Send us an email at bellyuptotheblackboardpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at bellyuppod, on Instagram at bellyuptotheblackboardpodcast, and subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform.